Hiya, two children. It's Mr Yeardsley. I'm going to continue reading David Walliams' book, The World's Worst Teacher. We already read about one, hadn't we? Mr Pent. You remember what he didn't like? He hated balls, didn't he? This time, we're going to hear about two teachers. And they're called Mr and Mrs Lovey and the Sea of Tears. I'll show you the front cover for that bit of the story too. There, just there. Mr Lovey had taught English at St Valentine's School for as long as anyone could remember. He dressed as if all his clothes had been knitted by his elderly mother, which they were. The man was never seen without his knitted tie, cardigan and tweed suit. One day a new history teacher joined the school. Her name was Miss Dovey. She dressed as if she made her clothes out of old curtains, which she did. The lady favoured floral frock that went all the way up to her neck and all the way down to her ankle. The pair were made for each other. On her very first day, Miss Dovey was put on break-time duty. Mr Lovey was too. As all the boys and girls of St Valentine's School played it, these two loverbirds caught their first glimpse of each other. Very lovey-dovey. To begin, their shyness prevented them from doing any more than glancing at each other briefly, then looking away. However, soon the looks became longer and longer as they gazed into each other's eyes. Red and brown leaves fell from the trees around them. Patter. A gust of wind swirled their hair into the air. Swirl. The sound of a dozen violins soared from the music room. Da-de-da-dum. The famous balcony scene for the most romantic play ever written, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, was being rehearsed in the concert hall. But softly, what light through yonder window breaks? 'Tis the east, and Juliet is the sun. It's nearly as romantic as Burton Sheeler's love story in the classic novel Ratburger by David Walliams. In no time, their hearts were full to bursting. Neither could resist each other a moment long. Mr Lovey and Miss Dovey opened their arms and began rushing towards each other. They scampered across the playground like gazelles, knocking small children out of the way. Oof! Ah! Ugh! Ooh, wonder what they're going to do. Eventually, the pair embraced. Wallop! They held on to each other tightly. It was as if they'd been searching the world for all eternity, and now they'd both finally found their soulmate. Such was their joy that they both burst into floods of tears. Boo-hoo! Yuck! Revolting, isn't it? What could be more vomit-inducing than a teacher in the throes of love? Puke. The answer is simple. Two teachers. In the throes of love. Double puke. That first meeting was only the beginning. Soon Mr Lovey was always loitering outside the history classrooms to blow a kiss to Miss Dovey. Mwah! Oh! Meanwhile, Miss Dovey was always popping into the English classroom to drop off a cup of tea and a slice of a homemade Victoria sponge cake to Mr Lovey. Clink! Barf! One day, he ended up eating 27 slices and had to be taken to the sick room. In no time, the pair of love-struck teachers were calling out messages of love to each other down the school corridors. I miss you already, my beautiful rainbow, he would say, even though she'd only been gone for 5 seconds. Spew. Until break time, my handsome prince of love, she would call back. Upchuck. All the kids at St Valentine's found the pair puketastic. Puketastic is a word. Just look it up in your Walliams dictionary. You might be quietly sitting in the library when you'd be caught in the crossfire of one of Miss Dovey's slobbery air kisses aimed at Mr Lovey. Splat! Or you might be tucking into your lunch when you'd be met with a horrifying sight of Mr Lovey's face squashed up against the window of the dining hall, gazing lovingly at Miss Dovey. Squelch! Your lunch would end up being sprayed all over the window. Splatter! So far, so bad. However, things took a turn for the worse. Much worser. A real word that you will find in the world's finest dictionary, the Walliams Dictionary. Not just yet, he replied. Ever since. Sorry, I lost my place. Sorry, guys. Splatter. Much worse. That's where it was, wasn't it? The teacher's romance blossomed and bloomed, and even blossomed. The Williams Dictionary includes it, so it must be real. It's never wrong. And one day, in front of the entire school, Mr Lovey got down on one knee. "Do you need a hand up?" asked Miss Dovey. "Not just yet," he replied. "Ever since I first set eyes on you in the playground." There was still a lot of chattering from the kids in the dining hall. There they are. "Please, can I have quiet? I can still hear talking. Thank you." The school fell silent. "Ever since—" "Oh, I did that bit, Miss Dovey. Whenever I see you, my heart explodes with joyousness. Please, could you make me the happiest, wappiest man in the world by becoming my wife? Miss Dovey, will you marry me?" From his pocket he produced a ring that his mother had knitted and presented it to Miss Dovey. The history teacher burst into floods of tears. "Boo-hoo-hoo! Is that a yes?" inquired the English teacher. Miss Dovey couldn't speak, so she just nodded her head and whimpered. Then Mr Lovey burst into tears as well. "Boo-hoo-hoo!" He was still down on one knee and beginning to look uncomfortable. "Ouch! Actually, please could you help me up now? My knee's gone numb." The wedding day was set, and the entire school was made to come. The church was beside a river, was only a stone's throw away from the school, so there was absolutely no excuse. All the girls were forced to wear bridesmaid dresses made out of curtains. "Ha, ha, ha," laughed the boys. Although they shouldn't have, as they were forced to wear pink page boy outfits knitted by Mr Lovey's mother. Hee, laughed the girls. Mr Lovey wore a three-piece powder blue suit, knitted, of course, by his mother. She bawled throughout the entire service. "Boo-hoo-hoo!" Meanwhile, Miss Dovey wore an enormous puff of a dress that was fashioned from neck curtains. It made her look like a meringue. Although the kids were missing lessons, nothing could be more boring than a marriage service that lasted 9 hours. It was so bum-numbingly lengthy because the groom insisted on reading aloud a 10,000-line love poem he'd written about his bride. "You are the angel of my heart. In front of you I would not fart, or burp, or scratch my bottom, because, Miss Dovey, you are the one." The bride, meanwhile, had written a 4-hour opera about the groom, which she sang in German. As the wedding guests began to nod off, there she is singing. The weary-looking vicar finally pronounced them man and wife. "You are now Mr and Mrs Lovey-Dovey." The bride burst into floods of tears. "Boo-hoo-hoo! I do hope they're happier, wappier tears and love my life," inquired the groom. "I have never been happier, wappier. Boo-hoo-hoo!" Seeing his wife cry, Mr Lovey-Dovey couldn't help but cry too. "Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, 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 boo-hoo." They cried for a good hour or so. The tears collected in giant puddles on the floor, and the vicar looked at her watch and sighed. "I'm very sorry, we've got a christening and then a funeral to get through today, so could you please just bog off?" Still the teachers sobbed. "Boo-hoo-hoo! I said bog right off." The vicar lobbed a hymn book at the elderly organist who'd fallen asleep. Zzz, zzz, whiz, clonk, ouch! Upon waking, the organist began playing the wedding march. Da-da-dee-da! Then, when the pair didn't move, the vicar rolled up the sleeve of her cassock, and with all her might she pushed them out of the church. Everyone at the school breathed a sigh of relief. The longest wedding in the history of the world was finally over. Wrong. It had only just begun. Partway through the story, I wonder what could get much worse. No wonder the children feel like being sick. They sound ever so terribly lovey-dovey, don't they? I'll finish that story tomorrow. It's Friday. Be the last story of the week for you, year 2. Remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. Chat tomorrow. Bye-bye.